want to welcome you to our 2017 Education and Professional Development Colloquium. So welcome. We're very happy to be here at the Naval Academy this year. The facilities are fantastic, and we really appreciate everything the math department and Commander Lazaro has done to make this happen. So if we can give them a round of applause right out front. So before I get going, a very important announcement. The restrooms, for those of you in the Naval Services, the heads, are through those doors. You just keep walking. You'll see big signs for them through there. So as soon as that coffee starts hitting, just go past the coffee and it's down there. So, okay, great. We have a busy schedule planned for you over the next 2 days. Very excited that you're here. I have the clicker here. Education Professional Development Colloquium has been going on for over 15 years. It's one of our core functions that we provide in the Moore's professional development area. It's something that we cherish and a role that we provide to bring together students, operations research analysts from all walks of life and from all levels of their career. So everybody from students up through senior executives. And so this year we're very excited that we have our first senior executive seminar that's starting this afternoon. And we have 3 excellent instructors who will be providing us for that inaugural seminar. We're really excited about that. For the students, we're going to continue our Rosenthal competition this year, as you all know, and as you all have prepared for. So it's one of the big events for us throughout the year, and we're glad to see everybody's here. We have over 110 people registered today, which is fantastic. Yeah, let's give a round of applause. If you could, let's just see who's in the room. So first, if I could ask the students either raise your hands or stand up. Maybe raise your hands. Yeah, that would be great. Raise your hands high if you're a student, if you can hear me down there. There we go, good, excellent. So we have a lot of students here. If you are not a student, raise your hand. Excellent, good. Kind of filled in the middle here. If you have a role in operations research academics, if you could raise your hand. Excellent. And I tell you what, thank you. And we have a very, very solid representation of some of the top tier operations research professors and lecturers here with us today. So we're very fortunate to have that. So Morse does several things for you as a professional, and I just wanted to talk just for a couple of slides about that, because that's important, especially if you're a student here and you want to know, what to do next in your career as an operations research analyst, especially if you go into the military. It's not always an exact track. So our role here is to help provide you a foothold and a place to go to when you have questions on what should I do next with operations research. So there's a whole list here that you're seeing of different professional development services that we provide, including mentoring. I know we have mentoring built into this agenda over the next couple days, and once you find that mentor, hold on to them and work with them, because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my mentor, and I also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my network. And that's another big thing that we provide in terms of membership and member services. Membership is not very expensive, especially if you're a student. You might not be able to see that. $35 a year for students, $50 a year for a young analyst. So as you're a student, you can join as you progress as a junior analyst. We keep the price low, and you get a lot out of that. And the biggest thing that I found is networking at events and being able to reference things. So as Moore's, we want to make sure we keep providing that for you. So I think this is my last slide. But just wanted to talk to you a little bit about bigger picture for Moore's over this next year. We have our 85th symposium at West Point, which we're very excited about. and that's in June. We also have events throughout the year. So after we have our education professional development colloquium, we have special meetings focused on very focused topics. And there are times where you could get together, work with analysts from across the different services in Homeland Security, and really focus on problems and come up with solutions during a short period of time, couple-day period. So let's see. Excellent. So there's a lot to do over the next couple days. This is very exciting to me to see this many people who are going to be participating, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback on how this goes. So with that, I want to invite to the podium Dr. Kenneth Lewis. And Kenneth is one of our members of the board, and he's also our program chair and helped put this all together. So I want to welcome Kenneth.
Good morning to all of you. Can everybody hear me okay? This side, front center, very good. To our distinguished visitors, to the Moores staff, to the folk who really helped put this together. Let's give the unsung heroes a round of applause. I'll thank them later. They know who they are. I thoroughly enjoy this part of Moores. Typically when I speak, one of the first things that I say is, as a 30-year educator of statistics and operations research, there is the old adage that says, those who can do and those who can't teach. And that suggests that teaching is not a favored profession. And the truth is, those who can teach so that those who do can. Because if those who do can, then they were taught by somebody who was truly great. And that should be the new adage. When you look at our theme for this year, big data and data analytics, what do we mean? Well, if you've gotten a chance to look at the welcoming letter, somewhere in there you'll see a comment about 1960s capri pants. And if you ever saw the Dick Van Dyke Show, you saw Mary Tyler Moore come in her capri pants. 2017, they're called skinny jeans. Same thing, just slightly different variation. When you hear the terms big data and data analytics, what do those words really mean? Is it something brand new, or is it just theme and variation on a theme? That's what I want us to be able to get out of this meeting today, because there is just a whole lot of talk about big data and data analytics. My background is not in operations research, even though for 30 and a half years I just retired from the U.S. Army Logistics University at Fort Lee, Virginia, and that's why I smile more. This is called a retirement smile, and it's good. But my background is not in operations research. My background is in educational research. Same applications, different context. Instead of force modernization, it's curriculum modernization. Instead of logistics footprint, it's still logistics footprint. And instead of force structure, it's personnel. But it's the same thing. Instead of firing at the enemy target and lock, launch, and load and hit, the educational research perspective is to identify the enemy, ignorance, aim the curriculum, and launch, and hopefully kill the target, which is ignorance. Same thing. So there is no real difference between operations research and educational research. They just don't talk about the transportation algorithm in the School of Education that directs the school buses to pick up the most students and use the least amount of gas. But it's the same algorithm. Well, all of those kinds of things that you think about regarding logistics and supply chain management and quantitative analysis and qualitative analysis for that matter. When you talk about big data, one of the things that you talk about or that you hear people talk about is text analysis. Well, in the School of Education, there is, I went to Florida State University for my PhD in educational research. And when you would get off the elevator at the end of the hall and make a right turn and walk down the hall, on the left-hand side were all the office suites that had quantitative methods. On the right-hand side were all the office suites that had qualitative methods, and never did the two talk. And so when you hear terms about qualitative data and text and all that sort of thing, perhaps it is just the realization that, this matters as well. A friend of mine was a qualitative researcher, and she had the transcriber. She used phenomenology. She used artifacts. She used symbolic interactionism. And for those of you who don't know that term, you do know that term, symbolic interactionism. And that's because you're not sitting where Rear Admiral Jesse Wilson is sitting. It's a seat, but it's his seat, it's not your seat. And so you've attached meaning to that. That's all symbolic interactionism is. Fancy name for something that you know about. All of these terms, all of these techniques, are they new? The computer software, the computer capability is new. I don't have to use paper and pencil anymore. I can use a spreadsheet. I can use faster algorithms and type in code. But I'm a teacher at heart, and I still use paper and pencil when I stand up and teach. As a matter of fact, I'm teaching a class right now at Virginia Commonwealth University. It gives me something to do in the evenings. And it's called Business Analytics. And in that class, I still use whiteboard and marker. And by the time I've written it out, the students are looking at me and they're saying, Dr. Lewis, where's the function for that? And I say, here's the cursor, and here is the desktop, and point and click and write and pull out a calculator, and by the time you've done that, you've solved the problem. With that said, it gives me great pleasure to introduce a welcome from Captain Daniel Packer, who is the director of the Math and Science Division here of the U.S. Naval Academy. I sincerely hope that you will enjoy this two-day event, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Kenneth. As Kenneth said, my name is Dan Packer, and I am the Division Director of Math and Science for the Naval Academy. And I just wanted to take this opportunity on behalf of the Naval Academy to welcome you all. We are so pleased to host you all today. This is a great mix of students and professionals from a great amount of colleges. Citadel, where are you guys over there? I saw the Citadel. South Carolina, hoo-yah. Oh, there you are. All right. I'm a Naval Academy grad, but I grew up in South Carolina, so I feel some kind of brotherhood. But I'd like to take this opportunity to give you a brief bit about our institution here at the Naval Academy. The Naval Academy was founded 171 years ago in 1845 at a small Army post named Fort Severn here on the historic town of Annapolis. What began with 50 midshipmen and 7 professors has grown today into a brigade of over 4,000 men and women representing every state in the U.S. and several foreign countries. We have an important and straightforward mission: to prepare midshipmen morally, mentally, and physically to be professional officers in the naval service. And we accomplish this mission year-round in the academic classrooms, in the gyms, on the athletic fields, on the drill fields, and on ships and squadrons in the Fleet and Marine Force. On the academic side, all of our midshipmen complete a very technical course of instruction. At least 65% of our graduates in each class major in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics disciplines, and every midshipman takes a healthy dose of mathematics, chemistry, they all love it, physics, engineering, and cybersecurity courses. We're very proud of our institution and the world-class faculty that teach here, at over 600 civilian and military instructors who make the program very possible. Of course, events like this fit right very neatly into that academic mission. And I commend you all, especially the students, for taking your time to further your math knowledge, because we love math, and prepare the next generation of national security analysts for the challenges of the operations research profession. The field of operations research is an important and consequential one, and I'm not even an operations research guy. As a graduate of the Naval Postgraduate School in Manpower Systems Analysis, I had to take a few operations research courses, watching the pig go through the snake and the matrices, and it was all great. But I appreciate the role of operations research, and I remember as a lieutenant at the Naval Postgraduate School being introduced to Captain Wayne Hughes and this book, Fleet Tactics. And this really changed, as a career submarine officer, this changed my view of tactics and how tactics are developed, because I learned, hey, that there's math behind it, and how important that was. And whether you're talking about force structure and what fleet mix you need, or as a submariner, what is the best course to evade a torpedo, it's all backed by operations research and the math behind it. And so I learned to have a great appreciation for the importance of operations research and how it really drives everything that we do in the military spectrum. And so what you are going here today is so important, and I am envious of your time here, and I think you'll get a lot out of it. Norm?
Thank you, Captain Packer. It's my honor to introduce our keynote speaker today, Rear Admiral Jesse Wilson. I'm going to talk a little bit about him. We have a full bio in your package there, so please read that. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but I want to. We'll be here for a while. I think there's a couple key points that I want to point out. So Admiral Wilson is the son of a retired Navy Master Chief Petty Officer. He's a native of Maryland. He is one of us. He graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Math from the Naval Academy in 1986, which doesn't seem that long ago for some of us, maybe longer for others. The next decade, he graduated with a Master's of Operations Research from the Naval Postgraduate School, 1991. And then he went on and he has a Master of Arts in National Security and Strategic Studies from the Naval War College. And so Admiral Wilson is a very strong supporter of MORS. He's one of our MORS sponsors, and he's currently the Director of Assessments at N81. So I want to welcome Admiral Jesse Wilson.
All right, how are we doing this morning? I tell you what, it's always a pleasure and an honor to come back to the Naval Academy for anything. But particularly important is to come back and talk to young scholars and our future analysts. Dan, thanks for the comments. Norm, thanks for the introduction. Kenneth, thanks for your words to the group here this morning, and thanks, Norm, for your leadership here with MORS. You know, I want to talk about how busy we are at the Pentagon, but then I looked around and a lot of my folks are here playing hooky, but I appreciate you being here. They're doing a great job. And what you are doing here is very important. And I can remember the first time I was here at a MORS colloquium. Matter of fact, it was held in Rickover Hall a few years ago. And I can remember seeing one of the professors out in the foyer with one of the senior naval officers, and they were just talking during one of the breaks. And they were debating whether there was a MORS colloquium in heaven. And, you know, they sat there for a while talking about this, and they said, look, whichever one of us passes first, they have to come back and tell the other one whether there is actually a MORS colloquium in heaven. So it finally did come to pass that one did die. And it was the following year that the other one saw him there in the foyer again. And he said, "Jim, it's great to see you. And you look well, but you've got to tell me, do they have the Moores Colloquium in heaven?" And he said, "Bob, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news first. They do have the Moores Colloquium in heaven. So it's a very good thing." He said, "The bad news is you are scheduled to be the keynote speaker next Thursday." So I'm happy to be here. And whenever you can get out of the Pentagon and do anything, it's always a pleasure and an honor. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about OR and kind of my background and the history. And I'm going to put it in a context that hopefully you can understand and you can relate to. Now, I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, but I did stay at my sponsor parents' house, all right? So as a midshipman here at the Naval Academy, you're assigned a sponsor here in town. And I came across this family when I was a plebe. And I've been extremely close to them ever since. And so whenever I'm in Annapolis, I take the time to go by and visit. I didn't bring my laundry this time, but we did have a nice dinner, and it's always nice to catch up with them. I'm a math major, graduated here in 1986. Norm gave you a little bit of the background. I'm a little bit biased about majors. So when I was here, I started out as a computer science major. And I can remember the course, it was assembly language, all right? And my professor came to me and he said, "Midshipman Wilson, I don't think this computer science stuff is for you." He said, "You might want to look at another major perhaps and get yourself a little bit more comfortable," is what he said. And I thought about that. But you know what he really said to me was, "Midshipman Wilson, one day you're going to be a rear admiral in the Navy, and you're going to be the director of assessments at the Pentagon, and you're going to be leading the operational analysis for the Navy. You need to go over and get in the math department and study OR." So that's what he really said. So one of the touch points that I want to give to you as young students and analysts is that, hey, your future is kind of mapped out for you, okay? You may not know it or not. So when something like that happens, that door closes, don't worry about it, all right? Another door will open, and just go through that door as fast as you can, all right? So that's one of my first kind of touch point messages for you. Now with OR, since I've been in the Navy, 30 plus years, commissioned, not once have I worked a differential equation since I've been in the Navy, all right? Not once have I worked a statics and dynamics problem since I've been in the Navy. Not once have I done a chemical titration since I've been in the Navy. However, I have to caveat that a little bit, because on my first ship, when I was the main propulsion assistant, we did do boiler water, feed water chemistry to make sure that the boiler water and feed water was appropriate at the appropriate level in the boiler. But all that stuff was very much mapped out for you, okay? Take this packet, put it in here, that kind of thing. Didn't have to do a lot of calculations to figure it out. It was kind of done for you. And likewise, when I was here, there was no GPS. There was no smartphone. There was no laptop. There was no 3D printer. So during the time that I've been in the military, I haven't done any of those things that I mentioned previously, But operations research, I do every day. Every day, I do some type of operations research. That's the value of this major. It's the value of the way of analytical thinking that you will develop and the discipline that you'll develop in this major. So I'm going to give you a few touch points. I'm going to inform you, if you don't know already, a little bit about the CNO and the Navy's strategy and the design for maintaining maritime superiority and the lines of effort. And I'm going to try to help you understand where OR is applicable through those lines of effort using big data every day. Now, I want to know how many ops analysis folks here have used the prowess of your discipline to work your NCAA March Madness bracket where you still have all 16 teams alive and well inside your bracket. A show of hands. No one. Okay? You all have work to do. All right? You need to learn how to manipulate the big data to get at that. Now, there's a lot of uncertainty involved with filling out your March Madness bracket. And there's a lot of uncertainty related to everything that we do, not only in the military, but in the nation as well. So we're going to talk about that. So my stumbling upon OR, I talked about what my professor said and how I got into OR and graduated as an ops research student here at the Academy. It was one of the tracks in the math curriculum. All right, I believe there were three. Applied math and OR was one of them. So I chose OR. Didn't know a lot about it, okay, but became very comfortable, became very passionate, and I saw the value in it even as a young student here at the Naval Academy. I selected surface warfare, so I go out to my first ship. I had a very good captain that I learned from, and at the end of that tour, he said, "What do you want to do next?" And I said, well, I think I just want to go over here and teach in the engineering school here in Coronado, California. Weather's nice, and I heard that they only work like half a day over there while they're teaching. And he looked at me and he said, you don't want to do that. He said, you need to do one of two things. You need to go to one of these new Aegis ships, okay? Or go to the Naval Postgraduate School and get your master's degree. And I said, okay. So I listened to my captain. And I had a pretty successful kind of first tour. And I said, well, let me do a little shore duty for a while, so I'll go back to school. So I went to the postgraduate school in Monterey. And because I was an OR track here at the Academy, I got accepted into the OR curriculum in Monterey. Got the master's degree. Another touch point for you. If you can get someone else to pay for your education, you should do so, all right? Throughout your life, whether that's your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate, whatsoever. That's OR. That's getting more bang for the buck, all right? So you should take advantage of that. And I did. Fast forward again. I complete my EXO tour. I'm at the Naval War College. The detailer comes up to visit. He says, Lieutenant Commander Wilson, what do you want to do next? And I said, what do I want to do next? I said, I thought that was your job, to tell me what I should do next. And he said, well, you know, what are you thinking about? And I said, well, okay. I graduated from Monterey with an OR degree, and they said at some point I have to pay that back. I have to do a payback tour. I said, mentors have told me at some point you need to do a tour in DC. So I think I should look into that. And also they tell me that I should try to get some joint experience. So I said, if you can find me a job that's in DC, is OR related for a payback, and it's joint, that probably would be a pretty good job. Opened up his laptop, typed a little bit. He said, well, what do you know? We have a job right here in the J8 in the Pentagon that is OR coded, and it looks like the time that you're leaving here, it matches up perfectly with the person that you would relieve. I said, that looks like the job for me. And that's where I went. That's called killing 3 birds with 1 stone. All right? Once again, that is OR related, okay? So I went to the Pentagon and I cut my teeth for the first time on actually applying OR principles inside the Pentagon and for the military. So this is the decision maker's lament inside the Pentagon and while you're wearing this uniform. And even if you are a civilian in a company or you are part of the government, this is why OR is so important. You can do anything you want to do, but you can't do everything you want to do. And so there will always be limited resources. You won't have enough money, you won't have enough people, and in the case of the Naval Academy here, you won't have enough parking. All right? One of you young OR students has got to solve the parking problem here. I'm sure it's some linear program or something you could put together. Or hire the right person to build the garage over here or something. But at the end of the day, and when I leave here and drive back to the Pentagon, this is what I'll be working on. How do we allocate the limited resources that we have to get us the most effective and efficient warfighting capability? And not only that, how do we do it under the environment of uncertainty? And how do we do it under the environment of the near term, the midterm, and the far term? It's a complex problem. And people have been working inside the Pentagon for decades trying to figure this out. And you work yourself along a curve and you just continue to work the problem. But it's going to take bright minds like yourselves to continue to develop the tools and have the discipline to get better at solving these complex problems. If this was easy, someone else would be doing it. If it was easy, it would already be done. You can see even in our own country, the president, for example, just submitted his first budget. Okay? What is that? Was there enough money to do everything? No, there's not. There's not enough money to do everything. Now, you will also find out that there's a political nature to some of the decision making. There's an emotional aspect of some of the decision making. But at the end of the day, your job will always be to provide the honest broker, analytical rigor to the solution. Now, what a decision maker decides to do with that information, well, that's why they're the decision maker. So that's just a piece of what they're going to utilize to finally make their decision. You know, your analysis may say that a tomato is a fruit, but the decision maker may decide not to put the tomato in a fruit salad. That is the decision maker's prerogative, all right? So the analysis will point to one thing, but what is ultimately used may be another. You have to stay true to your discipline and your craft. And when somebody points to you and say, what does the analysis say? What is your assessment? There can be no emotion in that. Only rigor and only the foundation of what you've learned and what you will utilize in the future. Let me talk real briefly about the Navy's design for maintaining maritime superiority. 4 lines of effort, and where do you play? The first line of effort is the blue line of effort, and that is strengthening naval power from the sea. All right, this is about warfighting capability. What is our role in increasing naval warfighting capability? When you get out to your ship as an ops analyst, you're going to think in different ways than other people that are on board the ship. You're going to take hold of data. And if you're not on a ship, if you're in a squadron, or if you're on land, same thing applies. You're going to utilize big data to make decisions. And so a couple key principles that I want you to always to consider. One of them gets back to that, the decision maker's lament. How do I allocate scarce resources? This is optimality, all right? This is getting the biggest bang for the buck. This is putting your resources, your money, your people, your forces where they need to be, when they need to be, when they can make the biggest difference. You're looking for an optimal solution. The OR discipline gives you tools to achieve those results. Everything that we're doing, we're looking for the optimal solution because that is the best we can do. So optimality, very important. Modeling and simulation. You know, a couple weeks ago, all of the admirals in the Navy met at an annual event which we call Infosys. It's the Navy Flag Officer and Senior Executive Symposium. We talked a lot about big data, and we also talked a lot about this phrase here, digital twin. Everyone sitting here now has a digital twin. That is, whether it's a company that's utilizing information from Facebook or a company or entity who has information on all the purchases that you've made within the last 5 to 10 years, whether it's Amazon, you have a digital twin that they know just about everything about you. And in some cases, they know you better than you know yourself. Because they have all that information. They have all of that big data. They definitely know you better than your parents know you. They definitely know you better than your spouse or a significant other because they have all of the big data. Now, with that big data, they can target you. They know you're a golfer. You're gonna start getting advertisements about golf equipment. You're like, how did that happen? They've been talking to your digital twin, and your digital twin told them that you like to golf. Your digital twin told them even what days you golf. Your digital twin told them where you go on vacation, what kind of car you drive, where you spend your money. They'll target you. How do you use big data? You have to create the digital twin for your environment. Modeling and simulation, you have to create a digital twin for your warfighting environment. Once you create that digital twin, now you can manipulate that digital twin for your warfighting environment. You do that through modeling and simulation. And now I can adjust the twin. Give it blue eyes, make it taller, grow the hair, and see how it plays out on the battlefield. And then I can tell the decision maker some things that we need to go back and either fix or consider. So although I didn't finish being a computer science major, in OR, you still have to do a lot of computer science, because you're going to have to do some modeling and simulation. You're going to have to understand it. And the tools that are available to you are much more advanced than what was available to me when I was coming through. You had to write all your code and then spend the next 4 hours trying to figure out that there's just a comma out of place. Now those tools are already available, and you just kind of plug and play. All right, we're in the Google age here. But you have to understand the foundation of what's inside of the tool, because sometimes the tool is going to give you results that don't make sense. And if you don't understand the underlying principles, the tool can send you anywhere. Anybody ever use their navigation system and it's taken you in a wrong place? You don't know that unless you have some sense that you kind of know where you're going. And then you pull the thread and you find out that in the settings of your navigation system, it says, you know, avoid the state of Maryland. Okay? Well, you didn't know that because you didn't look under the hood to the settings. Avoid all tolls, avoid all highways. So you're driving through somebody's backyard for 5 hours just trying to get down the street. So you have to understand the underlying principles. The second LOE, the green LOE, high velocity learning, achieving high velocity learning. You know, one of the things that you will find out, unfortunately, it's your job to fix it. We talk about lessons learned, all right? Probably even at your schools, at your companies, you talk about lessons learned. More times than not, they're not lessons learned, they're lessons relearned. We're making the same mistakes over and over again. And so we get to this point where we need this high velocity learning. We need to increase our ability to reduce mistakes and not repeat failures and mistakes that have already been made. We are in a competition in this business. And when you wear this uniform, the competition that we're in, you can only come in first place. And that should be very clear about the urgency and the importance of what you will bring to decision makers to get this right. You know, look at yourselves as the coaches and the coordinators that are bringing information to the head coach on what should be done. And failure is not an option here. I talked a little bit about sensitivity analysis or about uncertainty. How do you use big data to get at the uncertainty that we're talking about? No one has a crystal ball about what will happen tomorrow or what the enemy will do. So how do you consider that in your analysis? Well, you can't give the decision maker a point solution and say, well, hey, this is the answer. No, you need to give a span of answers because there's uncertainty. So there's going to be branches and sequels to everything that can happen. And so if this happens, this is the result. If this happens, this is the result. If this variable changes, this is the result. And let the decision maker have options. That is your job. And soon you will get to the level where you will be making the decisions. And as a decision maker, that is what you want. You're going to want options. You're going to want to see where the problem is bounded. Where's that left limit? Where's that right limit? And now you can look at the trade space in the middle. Something else associated with that that's an OR principle is game theory. And all these things you can, if you haven't studied them, you will. But you can get hot after this and look more about it. But game theory is very interesting because you can look at outcomes based on different moves that you may make and then consequences of your move. And it can give you some important insights on where you may bound problems, where the big payoffs are, and where the big consequences are. And then that can shape your recommendation and what you give the decision maker. One of the things that is very important that we do in this uniform, if not the most important thing, is manage risk. Everything that we do is inherently dangerous. And like I said, coming in second place is not an option for us. So we can't divulge ourselves from taking any risk. But we can't eliminate risk, but we have to manage risk. One of the ways you manage risk is to have a full appreciation of the consequences associated with the actions that you're going to take. The risk to the force and the risk to your mission. Game theory can go a long way in helping you do that. The last two lines of effort. The gold line of effort. This is strengthening the Navy team of the future, or strengthening the operations research analyst of the future. That's why you're here. 30 years from now, or less, I'm probably looking at someone who will be standing at this podium talking at that annual colloquium as the director of assessments or some other leadership role in operations research. We are planting the seed and growing that person right now, and that is you. That is the gold line of effort. And so I will tell you, you are well ahead of where I was when I was your age. And so I applaud the hard work that you've done to this point. And I know that you're going to be very successful in your endeavors in operations research and what you're going to bring to the military and to this nation. The last line of effort is the purple line of effort. And that is developing partnerships and networks to help you be more effective. That's what you're doing here as well. So I know we've got some West Point way over here, we've got Academy way over there, we've got some Citadel over there. At some point, you've got to intermingle. You've got to shake each other's hands. Not during the day of the Army-Navy game. That's something different. But here, you're building these partnerships. This badge right here is a joint badge, all right? So I am a joint qualified officer. So I am purple in nature. I've led organizations where I had Army, Air Force, Marines, all living, lions and tigers and bears, all living together in harmony. Every war that we fight joint. And so these OR principles, you're going to have to understand what the other service does, or you're not going to be able to operate. And you're not going to understand how to allocate limited resources across the spectrum of that fight if you don't understand what the other service does. You might have an Army counterpart that may come up with a operations research solution that might apply to the Navy. That may either save lives or save millions of dollars. So you have to stay connected. You have to share ideas, and you have to move our discipline forward. And so I thank you for the opportunity to talk with you this morning, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.